I crossed the line with my best friend's husband. Can our love survive? I never imagined I'd be in a position like this. Life was good. I've always tried to do the right thing. But here I am, standing on the edge of a personal disaster, feeling completely lost. Fuck my life has never felt more appropriate. It's hard for me to reach out for advice, to admit I need help. But as I sit here, the weight of my actions pressing down on me, I know I can't navigate this alone. My husband and I have been married for several years. We've shared countless memories, laughter, and dreams. We have a solid friendship that blossomed into a loving relationship. We've grown together, supporting each other through life's ups and downs. Yet for some time now, there's been a nagging feeling that something is missing. We have close friends, a couple we've known since college. Friendship with them has always been a cornerstone of our lives, comforting, familiar, and filled with joyful memories. We often gathered for dinner, sipping wine and sharing stories, enjoying each other's company like it was a cherished ritual. Those evenings were more than just casual get-togethers. They were an oasis of warmth and connection in our busy lives. Last Saturday was no different. We had invited our friends over for dinner. The atmosphere was lively, laughter ringing through our home as we shared delicious food. But as the night progressed, it quickly became clear that the alcohol was flowing more freely than usual, nudging us all toward that familiar state of relaxed merriment. After dinner, while my husband and our friend were busy in the kitchen cleaning up, I ambled out to the backyard shed with Joshua. We realized we were out of wine and decided to grab another bottle. What began as a light-hearted discussion evolved into something much deeper, tinged with an electric energy I hadn't felt in years. As I rifled through the bottles, Joshua stood close behind me, his presence igniting a thrill within me. That innocent debate over wine choice spiraled into something unexpected and intoxicating. In an impulsive moment, he hugged me from behind, and I felt a rush of adrenaline. The moment unfolded quickly, too quickly, and I found myself yielding to temptation, feeling alive, swept up in a whirlwind of emotions. What happened next was a blur. In that small, dimly lit shed, we crossed a line I never thought I would. As we came together in an act that was both exhilarating and terrifying, I lost myself in a way I hadn't done in years. I felt cherished, desired, and vibrant. The feelings crashed over me, exhilarating and terrifying in their intensity. Just like that, reality struck. I was betraying my husband, my love, my home. The guilt settled like a heavy blanket over me the moment I returned to the comfort of my home. I knew I couldn't keep this a secret. I couldn't live with the weight of deceit pressing down on me. It wasn't just about the physical act. It was about the deep emotional connection I had felt during that encounter with Joshua. When I went to bed that night, I was tormented by thoughts of what I had done and the pain it would bring. As the first light of dawn broke, I made the hardest decision of my life. I quietly crafted a letter, pouring my heart onto the page. I detailed every moment, how it unfolded, the rush of adrenaline, the guilt, and my realization of the void in my marriage that had propelled me into Joshua's arms. Each word felt like a dagger stabbing my heart, knowing that I was about to shatter the world of the one I loved the most. I left the letter on the kitchen table for my husband to find, the weight of my confession heavy in the cool morning air. I had to do this. I had to be honest, no matter how much it hurt. I told him I loved him, that I was lost, and that I desperately wanted to work through this, despite the pain it would inevitably cause him. Later that day, the response came. He left a letter for me in return, and the moment I saw it, a flood of anxiety crashed over me. I hesitated, fearing what awaited me within. In his letter, he expressed his struggle to process my betrayal. Told me he needed time and space, that he would be staying at a nearby motel for the week. The reality of his words hit me like a punch to the gut. He was devastated, and rightly so. I imagined him sitting there, staring at the same walls we had built our life in together, feeling the weight of my betrayal suffocating him. He needed honesty. Every detail I was willing to share, to help him make sense of the chaos I had thrust upon us. He was trying to grasp the very essence of our relationship, and how it had led to my recurrence of infidelity. His request made sense. Yet the thought of revisiting that night felt like turning over a fresh wound. I understood his need. He deserved the truth. But how could I share that without drowning him further in pain? My mind swirled with worry, and I could already sense his emotions spiraling into a dark abyss. I spent the week teetering on the edge of anxiety as I waited for him to return. Each phone call or text felt heavy with unsaid words, and every moment dragged into eternity. My heart cried out for the man who was hurting, because of my reckless choices. I kept replaying that night in my head, each moment now a cruel reminder of what I had lost. As the week wore on, I couldn't pull myself out of the pit of guilt and remorse. I wanted to scream at myself for being so foolish, but also desperately wanted to show him how much he meant to me. I contemplated writing him again, spilling my soul in a second letter, sharing how truly sorry I was and how much I still loved him. But I feared my words wouldn't be enough. When my husband finally stepped back through our front door, the air felt thick with tension. I didn't know how to read him. He looked exhausted, both mentally and physically, his eyes shadowed with pain. After an awkward silence, he asked me to sit, and my heart raced with trepidation. I've thought a lot during this week. Dad, his voice steady yet void of warmth. I want to know everything. I need to understand. But first, I need you to tell me why this happened. His question hung in the air, heavy and loaded. I hesitated, knowing that my response could either begin to heal the rift or deepen the chasm between us. Couldn't shy away any longer. I took a deep breath, my throat tight with emotion. I think it's because I realized I've been feeling disconnected for a while. Life became routine, and I didn't know how to express that to you. I let my frustration cloud my judgment, leading to a moment I can never take back. As the conversation continued, I shared every detail, every feeling. I told him I enjoyed the experience, but how empty it felt after. I expressed my love for him, how much I wanted to fix what was broken, even if it was a monumental task ahead of us. Watching him listen, I could see the pain etched across his face. My heart broke for him, knowing I was the reason for his suffering. He asked more questions, drawing out the details of that night. I did my best to answer, every reply cutting deep into both our hearts. The intensity of our conversation left both of us raw. My husband felt like his world had been pulled out from under him, and I could hardly bear the burden of my actions. The room felt heavy with emotions, resentment, love, pain, and an underlying fear of what the future held. Eventually, after hours of painful dialogue, a thin thread of understanding began to weave through our words. While he was still shattered, he expressed a willingness to consider therapy, a chance for us to explore what had gone wrong in our relationship and how we could rebuild from the rubble. I clung to that hope, as fragile as it seemed. But even with that glimmer of possibility, I could feel the walls closing in around me. Fear of losing him was paralyzing. I loved him deeply, yet I had put us in this position. The guilt was insurmountable. I knew that the journey ahead would be painstakingly slow. As we ventured into therapy, I was constantly reminded that trust takes time to rebuild. Each session opened old wounds and brought new challenges. My past actions hovered like dark clouds over us, painful reminder of the wound I had inflicted. Still, we worked through it. Each week we peeled away layers of hurt, unveiling raw, vulnerable feelings we had both been too scared to address before. I began to understand how my actions had left him feeling abandoned, and he slowly learned how my emotional disconnect had pushed me into Joshua's arms. Weeks turned into months, and while we still had bad days, we also had moments of genuine connection. We stumbled together in our healing, sometimes falling back into old habits of blame and grief, other times forging new paths filled with hope and understanding. As we navigated this turbulent journey, I learned the importance of honesty, not just about past mistakes, but about my feelings and needs moving forward. I started to realize that it wasn't just about my desire for passion. It was about mutual respect and understanding in our relationship. I wasn't sure if our love would be enough to rebuild our partnership, but as long as we were willing to fight for it together, place our hearts on the line, and embrace both the pain and the healing, I knew we had a chance. Looking back, I realize now that I allowed my vulnerability to surface in the most destructive way possible. I had taken a detour that led me far from the love I cherished most. But in this fight for our relationship, as difficult as it was, I understood that true love isn't just about seeking joy, it's also about confronting the shadows together, navigating through the brokenness, and emerging on the other side, stronger and more connected than we'd ever been before. So here I am, learning the hard way that honesty with myself and with my partner is the key to nurturing a love that can withstand anything life throws at us. I hope, in sharing my story, I can help others realize the importance of addressing their feelings before losing themselves entirely in the darkness. Love is a journey worth taking, no matter how rocky the road may be, and together, we'll forge ahead, one step at a time. My husband's secretly paying his ex's credit card after marriage. I'm 39 years old. My husband is 45. My heart is pounding as I try to wrap my head around the reality of what I've discovered. The man I love, my husband, is hiding a secret so deep it's rocked the very foundations of our marriage. He's been secretly using his ex-girlfriend's credit card at their joint business for months, and it's only now, by chance, that I've stumbled upon this painful truth. The funny thing is, it's not just a card, it expires in 5 years in April. April isn't just a month, it's the month we got married. It feels like a cruel twist of fate, like the universe is mocking me. He's assured me of his devotion, promised me a future together, and yet here I am, facing a betrayal that cuts deeper than I ever imagined. Finding these statements wasn't easy. I came across them by accident while cleaning out a drawer that had become a trap for old papers and forgotten knickknacks. When I pulled the papers out, I saw the familiar name of his ex tucked into the corner of one page, along with numbers that made my stomach churn. The transactions weren't just random. They were regular, consistent. A hidden lifeline he'd provided her by keeping me in the dark. I confronted him that evening, my voice shaking as I demanded answers. He was sitting on the couch, an air of calm surrounding him, as if he were unaware of the storm brewing inside me. I could feel the swirl of emotions, anger, betrayal, confusion, swirling through me like a torrent. When I laid out the facts, I saw his facade falter momentarily, his eyes flickering with worry. He told me 2 different stories when I pressed him on the subject. First was that he had used the card for purchases, like a regular credit card, and the second was a flat-out denial. He claimed he had never used it, that it was just for safekeeping until she needed it again. The discrepancies left me in shock. How could I trust him again? Listening to his explanations, I felt my heart breaking. He spoke of the situation with such indifference, as if it were no big deal, and that only made me angrier. I demanded to see his bank statements to see how deep the deception went. He refused. The wall he had built around his finances was impenetrable, and it filled me with a sense of dread. What was he hiding? Was there more to this story than he was letting on? My mind raced, each one more alarming than the last. Surely there had to be something I could do to uncover the truth, to restore my sense of security before it completely evaporated. With a sense of determination, I began to look into ways to obtain this information. It wasn't just about money. It was about clarity and closure. The thought of seeking legal advice was heavy on my heart. I knew it might be necessary. Maybe I could hire an attorney to help me through this process, guide me on how to approach this nightmare, while also protecting myself in the midst of it all. As the days turned into weeks, each moment felt like a blur of confusion and heartache. My husband continued his daily routine, seemingly unaffected by the upheaval in our lives. I, on the other hand, felt like I was walking on eggshells, afraid of every word that might spark an argument or reveal more of the truth I desperately wanted to uncover. I turned to friends for comfort and advice. Some told me to confront him more aggressively, to demand the truth. Others urged me to take a step back, to evaluate my feelings before making any big decisions. The conflicting opinions left me more confused than ever. As the nights wore on, I began to have vivid dreams of what our life was supposed to be like. Moments filled with love and laughter would turn into scenes of anger and betrayal when I woke up. Over time, it became clear that this wasn't just a matter of finance. It was a deep emotional betrayal that left me feel devastated. Uncomfortable conversations with my husband slowly began to seep into our lives. Every time I brought up our relationship and the cheating, he brushed it off with dismissive comments. I ended up leaving the relationship because I chose happiness. What would you do in my shoes? If you subscribe to this channel, I would be very grateful.